So I just want to put this out there before I start this video. If you haven't seen Star Wars by now, then don't watch this. This is going to be full of spoilers. At the point of making this, it's December 22nd. But this is going out in 4 weeks from now, I think. I don't know, maybe this will be still in theaters when it comes out. But if it's not, and you haven't seen it, well, thanks for watching this bit of the video. Hello, welcome to the Wild Review. I'm the Wild Reviewer, and today I'm going to review a thing. Let's talk about some Star Wars. Star Wars. I'm actually not that big of a Star Wars geek. If you had to place me in a certain fan group or fandom, I'd be more of the Doctor Who fandom because I have a better understanding of that. Star Wars, I know a lot. But I'm slowly learning more. I've only seen episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I also saw Rogue One last year. And I didn't talk about it because I didn't really think it deserved to be talked about. I plan on seeing the other spin-offs that they do, as well as episode 9. I have not seen the prequels yet, but I'm being told that they are pretty bad. But I should probably watch them anyway. This is not my first video talking about Star Wars. I've actually talked about Star Wars before. I think I made a video early last year about it. I don't exactly remember the exact date of when I made the Force Awakens review video. But I do know I made it, and I do remember it was very short because I, for some reason, thought I'd be very clever by filming something the day I had so much crap going on. So that ended up being about, 6 minutes worth of footage, edited down to 4 minutes worth of video. Good job, past me. Today, I'm going to actually talk about The Last Jedi in depth, to kind of refresh what my thought was about The Force Awakens. I thought it was pretty good. Keep in mind, though, The Force Awakens was actually the first Star Wars movie I've ever seen. I knew that, C-3PO and R2-D2 and Leia and Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Han Solo, they were the main characters in the first trilogy, which was episodes 4, 5, and 6. Force Awakens, I went in there as a blank slate, not watching any of the Star Wars movies. And I thought it was pretty good. And this isn't me just saying it because I'm a new viewer, what the company is aiming at. Because the whole point of reboots and remakes is to introduce it to a new audience. Well, that's kind of what they did with me, but I already kind of had a little info about what happened in the previous movies. So when I saw Leia and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo in The Force Awakens, it wasn't just oh, they were from the old movies reaction. It was a genuinely happy reaction to it because I know these are characters that were in the old movies, and these are characters that the fans of the original trilogy would really like to see. So it was a genuine, really excited to see these characters' expression. Force Awakens I thought was pretty good. It was pretty intense. As for The Last Jedi, me and my friend waited about 2 years for this film. And I was a bit curious what they were going to do with it. I'd have to say it's not the best. I saw it earlier tonight and I saw it earlier in the week, so I was able to see it twice, which is the exact same thing I did with The Force Awakens. And I did that purposely, not just because I was invited to go with 2 separate friends. It was mostly because I originally had the intent to go watch it twice, so this way I can get a better understanding of stuff that I didn't catch the first time. And because I knew I was making a video on it, I wanted to make sure all my facts were right. So that's exactly what I did. The Last Jedi, I'll admit, I'll agree with my friend after talking with him tonight about what we thought. It's not the best. It's definitely got flaws. One main difference from The Force Awakens was that in this movie you kind of expected to see characters like Leia and Luke Skywalker. I kind of expected to see Han Solo, but in like a ghost form, like Obi-Wan was, and Yoda and Anakin Skywalker at the end of Episode 6. But they didn't do that. Han Solo wasn't in the movie at all. He was mentioned, it was just never exactly said that he died. So rather than what I did with the Hey Arnold Jungle movie and basically everything else that I do, where I go step by step, where I basically go scene by scene talking about the movie, I'm instead going to talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. The first thing that I thought was pretty good was Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker. There's a thing about him that I didn't like, which I'm going to touch upon with the stuff that I didn't like about the film, but if I had to say one thing about Mark Hamill is he definitely did not lose touch with his character. I genuinely think that the way that he portrayed Luke years later in this film was nothing different to how he played it when he did the original Star Wars movies. And also, he didn't miss a single scene. He didn't miss any line. He didn't have to, try to find the character again in the film. You just genuinely saw him, and you knew that he was Luke Skywalker. From the second that he opened his mouth, yeah, he's a little different because in the movie he's really depressed and, he's a little angry. He's not like how he was in the original trilogy, but it is him. And unfortunately, we don't get much of him, which I think actually might... No, that's not the part. Yeah, we don't get much of Luke Skywalker, even though the movie kind of promotes it as well, it actually doesn't promote it as him. I would say the poster maybe would promote it more as he is one of the main figures of the film, which he totally is. But when you look at the film as a whole, he's really only in, I want to say 50% of the movie. The other 50% is everyone else that was introduced and new characters that were brought into the film, which there weren't as many new characters, but there were quite a few. But I genuinely think Mark Hamill did a great job in the film. I praised his acting, and this is a little major spoiler for you all, which I guess can also be considered as bad. Why even make a list? I'm just going to say everything good and bad right here and there. Luke Skywalker ends up dying. Not necessarily dying in the way you would think. He kind of becomes one with the Force. At least that's what it says online. And I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't know why it happened. Unless his fight with Kylo Ren just affected him while he was meditating. Why did that happen? Another thing that I really enjoyed is that we got a little more of Poe. I don't know the name of the actor who plays Poe in the film, so I'm just going to call him by his character name. But in The Force Awakens, yeah, we saw Poe. He was in the beginning of the film, and he was at the end of the film, and a little part near the end of the film. But there was a big chunk of the film where he just was absent from it. It was mostly just... Think of it like a cake, I guess, like a square cake. Take out a really big piece of the middle of the cake. That's how much Poe was absent from that film. That is a horrible connection. So, bottom line, there was more Poe in this film. And I appreciate that he took more control. He was in more scenes. He's supposed to be a main character. So I'm glad that we touched more on that character and how he took a lot of control in this film, because he was that character that, it wasn't said right there and there. You can kind of guess just by the context of what was going on that, he's a leader, and when he's chosen not to be a leader, he knows how to handle with it. He just doesn't agree with the person that is a leader. But it was one of those kind of story plots that was going on. Not exactly like how it usually goes, but that's kind of the feeling that I got with that whole situation. Here's another big spoiler if you didn't see the film. Yoda shows up. That's pretty cool. I didn't expect him to see when I first saw that earlier this week. I genuinely jumped, and I was kind of sad that it was just Yoda. I thought maybe Obi-Wan could have also made an appearance, and Anakin Skywalker, and even Han Solo, because apparently when you die in Star Wars, you just become a ghost figure. But Yoda was the only one that showed up. And he's not in it very long. If I had to estimate how much screen time he got a good, 5 minutes. I don't think any more than that. I'm going to assume 5 minutes. Because he's just only in one scene. He's in, the middle of the film, and I think that was pretty cool that they brought him back, because he was a big part of Star Wars. I appreciate that they aged him. You know, when you watch the film, he's more aged. I know he's a puppet and all, but they actually gave him wrinkles. They made him look more like an old man. He's not hairy all over the top on his head with gray hair. He just genuinely looks like he is old, which I really appreciated. And I also like that they brought Frank Oz back to do the voice for him. And if you've heard that name before, Frank Oz, if you ever wondered exactly who he was, he's a Sesame Street performer. He does the voice of Grover and I think Bert and a few others. Kylo Ren had a big story plot in this film. First off, I had a little hard time understanding who the main villain of this film was. The Force Awakens, it was Kylo Ren. I think this one it was Snoke, but it could have also been Kylo Ren. Who really knows? But there's a little plot with Kylo Ren as what's weird is he's got a little connection with Rey, they're able to see each other but not their surroundings. Some kind of force link that Snoke put them on, which doesn't even make sense because after Snoke died, they were still able to do it. And it's if Snoke was the one that wouldn't it go away if he died? I don't understand that at all. Is the connection still alive without him? But there was a whole thing with the movie. You can see it in the trailers as well. Some would think that Kylo Ren's going to turn good because there's a whole scene with him and Leia if he's going to shoot his mom. And then there was that whole thing with maybe he's not good. He's going to make Rey turn to the dark side. And I appreciate that they were toying with the character and making him see that in the beginning he's worth nothing, and maybe he's going to be innocent, maybe he's going to turn to the good side after the fight that happened, but in the end he's just a big villainous villain, and I feel that he's going to be full of big fury in the next one. If he's in the next one, I'm sure he will be. The last thing that I would have to say is really good in the film is there were a lot of intense parts. There were a number of things that had me jumping out of my seat. I think the fights were pretty cool. Not all of them, but some of them were. I like the fury Kylo Ren had. And yeah, that's really everything I found good about The Last Jedi. Alright, here's what I got a problem with now. Number 1, Carrie Fisher. I'm going to be careful what I say here for Carrie Fisher because I understand the whole tragedy that happened, and there's a defense for my argument. I completely understand it. I'm sure we're all aware of the tragedy that happened with Carrie Fisher last year. It was sad. I actually remember I was in a room with my friends when it happened, and my one friend was a really big fan of her, so I know she was deeply upset. That whole tragedy just happened way too fast, and it was awful. Of course, that got all the Star Wars fans very concerned about their movie. They wanted to know what would happen in Episode 8, and now they want to know what's going to happen in Episode 9. I remember the creators put out that Carrie had filmed all of her scenes for The Last Jedi, so she was wrapped. Okay, that's fine. I saw the movie. I want to be very honest with you. I expected her to die in the film. I really did. And in a way, we almost got that. Because her ship gets blown up and she goes into space. And now she's floating in space, about to be dead. But then she starts moving. Like her hand starts twitching and she ends up opening her eyes and flying back to the ship. Here's a question that you never answered. How did she do that? I don't recall Leia ever having the Force. I don't even think Han Solo had the Force. Now thinking about it. I get Leia's Luke's brother, but I don't think she had the Force. How did that happen? She ends up getting hospitalized. I hope I'm using the right word. She's just laid down in the ship, settled for treatment for the rest of the film until the ending when she wakes up and the last scene of the second to last scene of the movie, she's fine. Okay, that's fine. The argument that I know would come up with this whole issue is obviously they didn't know this was going to happen. And that's completely understandable. Tragedies like this, you don't know what to do with. I mean, I'm sure movie producers go through this all the time. I remember when Fast and Furious was making that one movie, I think it was movie 6, and their main actor died because of a car crash that he was in. I'd never watched Fast and Furious. I have no interest in the movie series, but I know that was a huge tragedy that happened. When the death of an actor or actress happens, you just don't know what to do. And in this case, in this case, all of her scenes were done, and they had the expectation she was gonna be in the 9th one. Well, now she's not, and now they have to think of something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm really hoping they do a good job explaining what's gonna happen because, well, first off, I hope they don't recast somebody as her. I really don't, because that just wouldn't seem right. They did such a good job bringing everyone from the original lineup back. Try not to mess that up. Also, don't put in the beginning credits when you have the yellow credits rolling up on the screen in the beginning. Don't say, in one little paragraph, oh, and Leia unfortunately died. Don't do that. That's lazy. That just tells us that you're not using your brain. You're not being creative with a movie so creative. At least think of something. You got about 2 years actually a full year to think of something. So hopefully you do a good job on that. Some other things that I don't like in the film. There's the scene with Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren as they fight. I brought that up a while ago. I like that Kylo Ren was more in action, but I was disappointed Luke wasn't. I mean, all Luke did was kind of defend himself. We never really got to see a full-on war with the lightsabers. That was a bit unfortunate. And then just to find out that Luke is a hologram, he was kind of just projecting himself from the island that he was on. That was kind of crappy. And again, he just dies out of nowhere. That doesn't make any sense at all. Also, something that I kind of have a problem with. The movie was about two and a half hours. And the scenes just went on and on. I honestly think maybe the movie should have stopped when everything started getting intense. Like when Finn and Rose were about to die, and as the people on the ship with Leia and Poe, they didn't know what to do, and the whole scene with Kylo Ren and Rey fighting over the lightsaber just staying in the sky, just floating in the air. I think maybe it should have just ended on that point. Or maybe even ended as Luke Skywalker was about to fight Kylo Ren. I think maybe that's a better time to end the movies, only because they were really big, intense moments that if you left it on a cliffhanger there, people would want to come back and see what happens. They would pay money to see that. A lot of scenes were after... I just felt like it kept getting dragged on. And I said this about another movie. I don't actually think I talked about it. No, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and this was a similar problem with that movie. There were a lot of different stories going on in this film. You had the whole incident with, Rey and Luke, and then Luke had his own little problem, but Rey had her own little problem. And then Kylo Ren had his own little problem, but was also connected to Rey, and Finn had something going on with Rose, and BB-8 was dragged along with that, and Poe's got an issue, and Leia's got an issue. There were a lot of things going on in this film, to the point where, when it came all together in the end, it was very confusing. There were a lot of story plots. Just stick with maybe like 2. 2 is the limit. Maybe 3. But stay in that range with subplots. I get that maybe the first story can be very hard to follow up with if you don't have anything else going in between it. But don't have that many. The last thing I have a problem with is Rey's parents. They were playing it up that Rey's parents were going to be like special people. We never really saw Rey's parents. I kind of expected them to be like maybe a character in the film. Like maybe repeat something that happened in the Star Wars series already with like Darth Vader being Luke's father, you know. Maybe not repeat it exactly like that, but at least have a connection with another character. Give us like a big, shocking surprise that we don't see coming, like a plot twist that nobody sees coming. Don't just say like they were nothing. You know, that doesn't sound pretty good. Also, there were lines in this film where it sounded like the actors weren't even trying. Like that scene where Kylo Ren was saying to Rey that your parents are nothing. You're nothing. Like that was no emotion at all. And also, Rey, when talking to Luke Skywalker, face to face, it kind of just sounded like Rey was looking on a screen and saying what to say. I didn't feel any emotion at all. Well, that's my thought on Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I saw it twice. I don't think I'm going to see it again. I'll definitely check out episode 9. My battery is blinking, which means it's dying, so I have to go now. Overall, I thought it was pretty alright. There were good things and bad things. Should have been a little better. Now I want to hear what you guys think. What did you think about The Last Jedi if you saw it? What's your opinion on Star Wars in general? Have you ever seen any of the Star Wars movies? And what are you excited for episode 9 if you saw episode 8? Do you agree or disagree with anything that I said in this video? Tell me in the comments, and also leave me suggestions for whatever movie, TV show, or random thing you want me to talk about next. Thanks for watching The Wild Review. I'm The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully if you watched Star Wars: The Last Jedi, you understood everything that I was saying. Make sure you come back next week, because we're going into the jungle. Wow, that's a very cheesy line. I'm gonna take a look at the Jumanji movie, which I also saw around Christmas break.
Wildlife.